And so, Joy, you are chatting to us this morning. So just very briefly, before we get into the practice of solitude, for those of us may know your life, maybe some of us don't, just give us a brief summary of what does life look like outside of Sunday morning? What do you do during your week for work and all those kinds of things?
Yeah, I think probably most of you know me. I've been coming to this church about 28 years when I thought about it, so quite a long time. I'm married, I've got 2 adult children. I'm a teaching assistant in the local school along with several others from here, and I love that. Being a mum and a homemaker has probably been my primary focus over the last 20 odd years.
Fab. And so then looking at this practice of solitude this morning, what...
A young teacher, a young mum, I did everything I could to be with people all the time. My calendar was full. If I was on my own at home, I'd phone someone because I needed company. So this isn't something that's come naturally to me. But I think as our children grew older, and I noticed that if I was intentional and took myself out to a tea room with my Bible and journal, I really enjoyed that. And I also came across 2 beautiful phrases which really inspired me. One was holy leisure, and the other was secret lingering. And those, really stuck with me.
Amazing. And so you say it's maybe something that you've come to, not always natural to you. So how long has it been something that's been a practice of your life, something that you've been doing for a while?
I'm not really sure. At least 10 years, so quite a while. I'd have to look back in all my journals to find out when. But yeah, about 10 years, I think. Cool.
So a fair bit of time to embed this into your life. For some of us this morning, we may have never really thought of or even heard of the practice of solitude. And maybe a helpful thing then to look at would be, well, what does it look like for you in your life? How does solitude get worked into your everyday life?
It can look like a lot of things now. So on a simple level, especially in the summer, it can look like a first thing in the morning before work walk. There's a beautiful willow tree near the canal near us where I just like to sit on the lock gate and just be for a little while. Sometimes that can look like singing or praying. Sometimes it's just sitting watching the birds and enjoying the beauty. And so often God speaks to me through that. Now, actually, it can also look like a house on my own, empty house at home on my own, and just being intentional, lighting candles, putting music on or not, and just spending time intentionally doing whatever I want to do, I think. And I think one of the things I've really realised is that spending time with God doesn't have to be something you don't like doing. I've really discovered all the things that I do like doing, and God's part of that. One of my favourite things to do is a trip out to somewhere like a National Trust place. And I think we've mentioned her before, me and several other women, but an author called Sharon Gerlow-Brown really inspired me. And one of the practices that she says about is doing a labyrinth walk. A labyrinth is basically a maze that doesn't have any dead ends. And there are some actual labyrinths. There's a beautiful one at Ashridge House, which is probably my favourite. But you can also do a walk with the same things in mind. So the idea is with a labyrinth that on the way into the middle, you release anything that's just sitting heavily on you. In Sharon Gerlow-Brown's words, I'm just trying to find it, she says to release anything that's competing for your affection and attachment to Jesus. So I find it really lovely to walk wherever I am, and as I'm walking to do that, and it's quite eye-opening sometimes to realise what it is you need to release. And because a walk in somewhere beautiful, you can decide where you finish. So I feel like I can walk until I'm ready, and then once you've released it all, you just sit and receive. So somewhere like Ascot House has got beautiful places to sit and just receive from God. And then when you feel like you're ready, you return along the same path and sort of think, well, what am I taking back to normal life? The other thing that I like doing, it's kind of increased, is now that I'll take myself away for a night or two. Although I have learnt with that not to be too intense, because you can't be focusing on God for all the time in an intense way. God's with you wherever, and resting is really important. And I find taking photos inspires me. I can look back through them and think, oh, what's God saying through that? And I quite often share that on Facebook or whatever, mentioning I've prayed or whatever. And I've felt quite, I don't know what the word is, surprised perhaps. My niece sent me a lovely message saying, Joy, you've inspired me. I'm going to go out on my own too. And another friend sent me a message with a photo saying, I'm doing a Joy. So that felt lovely that I can inspire other people to do beautiful things.
That's really cool. I love, there's so much in there over your years of experience having embedded this into your life and so many varied different bits and pieces. I especially love the idea of the labyrinth thing. That's really quite nice. So there's a lot of stuff that you do there in terms of Solitude. And again, this has been over a period of time for you. So maybe for all of us, we're not going to maybe put all these things in our calendar right away. But what has been maybe the impact of this as well? So it's obviously something that you've done for a while, but what's the impact it's had on your life, on your faith, your walk with God?
I think the first thing I'll say is that it isn't always easy. Sometimes when life's tough and you know there's a lot going on, I know I resist it because a lot of emotion will come up sometimes. And sometimes it doesn't feel you feel very vulnerable as being somewhere out if you're going to get upset. So that can be quite tricky. But I think what I will say is that I've never regretted when I have actually taken myself out. I've never regretted going out. But I think the impact it's taught me a lot about myself. And I feel like when I go back, I've got a lot more to give my family and as work. I've got a lot more to give out because I'm coming from a full cup. And I think it's just increased my confidence in myself, actually, just to have that time by myself.
Brilliant. So again, a whole host of things, that the impact that it's had on you. And it's probably one of those things, it takes time as well, I'd imagine, to get there. Maybe you take a day away and it might be instantaneous, but sometimes I love your honesty of saying it's not always easy. That's really good as well. Thank you, Joy. Thank you so much for sharing. Can we give Joy a round of applause?